How much of this drink have I had? And I'm blah, blah, blah.
Yay, Jen.
Yay, Jen.
Oh my
Give
God.
it up for the Jen.
We're 5 seconds into the podcast. It started technically. Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
Hey. Okay, so we just watched the phenomenal gothic movie from Guillermo del Toro, Crimson Peak. This gothic romance film takes place in an Edwardian era England, and it follows a aspiring author who travels to the remote mansion in Cumberland, England, with her husband and his sister. And basically the movie unravels from there.
With a perfectly normal, not at all weird or sus brother and sister.
No, the brother and sister don't give any weird vibes.
None at all.
None at all.
Honestly, the actors just nailed it because they nailed having a bad vibe.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you instantly pick up on it.
Yeah, like little subtleties and stuff where it's like, oh yeah, no, there's something up.
It's just wrong. You just know it's
So,
wrong, even if you don't
yeah.
know why.
One little fact that I do know about this movie is that Jessica Chastain, she was offered the role of Edith first, but she turned it down because she wanted the role of Lucille, the sister, because she thought it was more challenging. She was like, no, I like the vibe of the sister way more.
Yes.
So yeah, which I think is perfect because I can't see her as Edith.
No,
The main,
yeah.
like the main girl.
I could see her as Edith very well, actually, but I think she just does an amazing job of being
Lucille.
Mhm.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I think she probably could have done Edith, but she absolutely crushed Lucille. And
Mhm.
having her done it, like having seen her do it, I can't imagine anyone else doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just get into it. Basically, the movie starts off with Edith, who lives with her father, and we learn that she's an author very early on. And then there's, also the side character of, oh, shoot. What is the other guy's name?
Alan. So do we want to start with the beginning?
Oh,
we
should.
Yeah, because the opening shot is
Because that opening shot.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think the beginning shot is the last shot of the movie.
yes.
So start there.
Yeah, where
Well,
we see,
It starts out with Yvette's favorite thing in the entire world, children singing.
Yes.
So you hear children singing, and then there's that opening scene where you just see Edith, and she's got this beautiful strawberry blonde hair. I say, not having strawberry blonde hair myself. But she's got this beautiful hair, but she's wearing white and she's pale and there's snow around her, but then it's just contrasting with this blood that's on her face and on her clothes. And you're just wondering, how did she get in this situation?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happened to lead to this point?
A record scratch. You're probably wondering how I got here.
And she's got the amazing line, ghosts are real. This much I know is true.
Mhm.
Oh, which there are so many lines in this movie that I just quote all the time and love. And that is one of them.
Yep.
Yeah. No, yeah, they have such incredible lines, which is interesting because in an interview with Guillermo del Toro, he talks about how he wanted a really simple story, but a complex world. Like this movie really is just about the scenery. He was like, you could watch this on like a low volume, like not even really listen to it and still get the story.
Yeah.
But there are so many incredible lines in this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
movie is just beautiful, and you can tell that was the focus of it.
Yeah.
But the lines and the acting is also amazing.
Because there's just something, again, the word gothic, like even the lines are gothic. There's just something so inherently vibey with it that I love. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then we get our first ghost,
Our first
right?
death.
The first death.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Yep.
Edith's mom. Right. Did we find out why she died?
Yes,
It was the
she-
black cholera, right?
Yes, it was the
Oh,
black
okay.
cholera.
Mm-hmm. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see the funeral, right? Quickly see the funeral. And
Yep.
then we see a young Edith, I guess, in her room. And then she hears something
The
coming
door
from the hallway.
rattling.
And then we see the ghost of her mom, which we can presume it's her mom, right?
Yeah. And I think we then ended up finding out for sure. Like she says it's
Yeah.
her mom or something.
Which I love the ghosts in this movie. The
It's
way
so
that
good.
the animation is done, like the way that the ghosts are presented is what I envision a ghost to be like. Like
Yes.
kind of this swirly, foggy, ethereal creature.
I know. I
Yeah.
love however they made the effects. So yeah, there is no CGI. All of the ghosts are actors
Okay.
that were in the scene. And then they created like a kind of, like a transparent effect and then added the like blood swirly blackness around them. And
Because
after
I thought it was CGI. I was going
Yeah.
to comment about that I know how Brianna, you hate CGI, but I felt like there was a decent amount of CGI in this.
I hate poorly
Interesting.
done CGI.
Yeah, right.
I hate
Yeah.
poorly done. When it's done well, it's
Mhm.
fine.
yeah.
But yeah, it almost
yeah.
looked like smoke is coming off of
Yeah.
Such a
them.
cool
It's Such a cool
effect.
effect.
It's an interesting take on a ghost.
It is.
That I feel like we haven't really seen before. We'll
No,
get
I
into more of the
agree.
ghosts later, but the first ghost is so good.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that's when we get the warning. Beware of Crimson Peak.
beware of
Yes.
Crimson Peak.
That's all we get from her.
All we get.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun, dun.
So yeah, then it opens up to now current day Edith, who lives with her father.
In Buffalo, New York,
And
go Bills.
thriving Buffalo, New York.
Go Bills, baby.
Just had to throw that in there. Sorry.
And so yeah, she's at her father's work. And this is where we meet Sir Thomas Sharp for the first time because he's coming in to make a presentation to her father.
Yeah.
You know.
But Edith is there because she's also trying to get published.
Yep.
Mhm.
And she makes some comment on, I don't know if either of you picked up on it. There's a nice nod to Mary Shelley.
Yes.
Yes.
So because she wrote Frankenstein,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
So there's a nice nod to her. And then this part of the movie when, it's that, what did you call it, an Edwardian era?
Yeah.
It's that era, and she's a writer, and just the look of everything. It just made me want to watch Little Women.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
It was so much like Little Women, so beautiful. But then we meet.
I genuinely believe that I was born in the wrong era because I would have loved, minus the women's rights. Okay.
Yeah.
Minus that. But I would have
Yeah.
been one of the fighters.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
man, I think I belonged in this era.
Oh my
I just
God.
do. I just do.
You know what I think? I think I wrote down actually the exact same thing that I said, I want to live in this time period. But I think it's not that I necessarily wanted to live in that time period. I think it's that I want to live in Guillermo's version
There you
of
go.
this
Yeah.
time period. Like
Or
him and
maybe
Little
I
Women and-
did
Yeah.
maybe
in a
Maybe you
past
did.
life.
you're
Yes.
reincarnated.
Yes.
Mhm.
There,
It seemed
there we go.
familiar as you watched it.
It
Like,
is
I've been there.
familiar. Wait a minute.
I've been in 1901
before.
Buffalo.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so we meet Alan, the eye doctor,
Mhm.
because he's there. But then in come Thomas and Lucille Sharp.
Yep.
Yes.
And they're creepy. They're talking cryptically, like about her ring that she's wearing. But we as the audience do not understand that yet. We don't know
Right.
what's really up, but we get that creepy, like, these are brother
Yeah.
and sister, but there's a weird vibe going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro, he had a really good quote. He described them, he wanted them to be glamorous, dark shadows coming into Buffalo.
Mhm.
That's exactly what they are.
And that's exactly what they were. They were
He
these
nailed it.
glamorous, dark shadows.
Yep.
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 I love that.
And at this point we also meet the private detective.
Yep.
Okay, so Thomas and Lucille come in, and they're Thomas is like presenting to Edith's dad, hey, I want you to invest in my machine. I've got this machine and it digs this special red clay that is on the mountain of the property I own. I want you to invest. And Edith's dad does not trust Thomas, so he hires this private detective.
Yes,
To
do
kind of
some
investigate.
background.
And so the detective is Mr. Hawley, and I could not get over the fact that I don't know what else I've seen this actor in, but his mouth is William Dafoe's mouth. I know he's not William Dafoe.
I said yes. I was like, this guy looks like Willem Dafoe.
Oh my
the whole time.
You're totally right.
Because it is his mouth. I don't understand how his mouth is on this dude's face, but
that's wild.
No,
Yeah,
as soon as I saw him, I thought he looked so familiar, and I thought he was Willem Dafoe.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Was it Willem, not William? Same difference.
Oh my gosh, that is wild.
Yeah. I could not get it out of my head.
No, same.
Yeah. And then we get to the locker room setup, which is my dream. So Edith's dad is in his country club.
Oh, yes.
He goes to his country club. He's got the phonograph playing this beautiful music. He's like someone is getting his perfectly temperatured shower set up for him, bringing him coffee. He's like, oh, would you like, me to bring you a coffee? Would you like anything else with it? And he goes, I'd like a port.
Right.
So he gets a coffee, a port, a drawn shower in this beautiful locker room with this this phonograph going.
What a way to start your day.
Yeah.
What a way to start the day.
Do these exist?
Like I said, I was born in the wrong era.
Yeah.
I mean, and also I should have been born a man if I was going to be born in this era, but still.
That's the trick with all of these. Like, man, if only I had gotten to live. It's like, yes, but I'm assuming I'm a rich white male. We'll just get
if I was a rich white male, I would have loved to have been in this time.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true. But speaking of that, him ordering the port and just getting that brought to him. Before we move on, should we talk about what we're sipping on?
Yes.
We should talk about what we're sipping on.
He ordered a port, and our drink is twofold appropriate for this movie.
It really is.
But you chose it, right? Or no, Brianna, you chose it.
I did. I chose the drink this time.
Okay,
we are drinking the Crimson Cocktail. Where did it go?
Into my mouth.
Yeah.
Into my mouth. Yep. We're drinking the Crimson Cocktail tonight because that's perfectly fitting. It's got gin, fresh lemon juice, grenadine, and a tawny port. We'll include the recipe below, but it is quite delicious. What do you ladies think?
It's really good.
I really like it.
Yeah. I'm not a gin person. I did botanical gin instead of regular gin because I like it a little more. That
would be good with the lemon juice.
Which, I think it paired really well with everything. So it's like a little sour, kind of sweet. It's really good. It's also like a beautiful color.
Oh, it's so pretty.
No, it's the perfect color.
Yeah. No, it just makes like a beautiful looking drink.
I didn't even think about the fact that it had port in it. Yes. So that really is perfect.
I also did not think of it until I was making the drink and I shared and made one with my husband, and he goes, oh, are you making this because of the port that the guy has that you say you want your lifestyle to be? And I was like, oh, because I had told him the same thing.
Right.
Yes. I want to be this man. And I was like, no, but that totally makes sense. But yeah, I think so for me personally, and I really like lemon and citrus, but for me, it was a little bit too much lemon. So from the recipe that we'll post, I actually halved the lemon, and I feel like it's better for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah. We did some slight variations of it, but it's good.
It's very good.
Yep. Okay. So we're back to the movie. There's quite a lot that happens. They go to a dance.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
He chooses her to dance with, and everyone is just shock and awe because she's kind of not the belle of the ball in her city, in her little social circle. And so we've got the dance that happens, and they're kind of slowly falling for each other. They then go on a walk in the park, and you can tell that they're kind of courting, one another. He's courting her.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when they get back to their final night, when they're having a dinner hosted at their house, and it's kind of the final night that they're there, and he is going to ask for her hand in marriage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Which, like, yeah, it's been like 3 days, but
it's been
that's
like 3
cool.
days, but that might just
That's
be how
fine.
it
That might
goes.
be the time. It might be the time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the same day, the private investigator comes back with his report, and
Willem
he
Dafoe's on the case.
He is. He
Get it,
brings
Willem.
Get him.
With
He
your
brings the-
large mouth.
He brings the report to the father, and he's basically like, "You can't open this here, but there's bad news. Like, bad news bears, basically."
Mhm.
And so right before the dinner takes place, the father says that he needs to see Sir Sharp and his sister immediately in his study.
Mhm.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. So good.
So good. And this is kind of where he has discovered that they have, I'm trying to remember exactly that they have had failed attempts at getting money in all these other cities, like Milan and
Oh, so that was in the business meeting that he's like, you failed in other places and now you're here and you have
Right.
soft hands, so I'm not going to give you money.
okay.
But then they don't actually show us what
Yeah.
the PI finds. He just shows
Neat.
them the like,
Right.
here you go. I know what's going on.
Right.
Mhm.
What's in this folder?
Yeah.
Right.
But
So
it's
the
a-
dad does, but
Yeah, the dad
Yeah.
does. It's enough that both of the brother and sister are like, okay, we'll leave. So he cuts him a check. He like writes him money.
Mhm.
The father writes them money to leave. And they're like, okay. But then the father says, I have one more condition. You have to break Edith's heart. Like, you have to make it clear that you are not interested in her and it's over. You've got to break her heart to make it official.
Mhm.
And he does.
Yep.
And it's crushing, this scene where he like basically
so
just tears
sad.
her down, because he had read her novel.
Mhm.
Basically just tears into her novel for being so naive and immature, and it's
Yeah.
And you don't know anything about love.
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
So he does.
Yeah.
Breaks her heart.
Mhm.
Oh, tragic.
Yeah.
And sorry, so then I had gotten ahead of myself with the locker room scene. Then we get the locker room scene.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, I think we saw it. Yeah.
Because he met the PI in the locker room first.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
the scene where he like is ordering the
Oh,
port,
true.
and
Okay.
Yeah.
it's like this
Well,
wonderful morning.
Yes.
So now we're back at the locker room
We're
scene.
back to the
Yes.
locker room.
Yep.
And we get, I think they're kind of happening at the same time, right? Which is Edith gets a note
Yes.
and her manuscript back from Thomas,
Yes.
and she's reading it as we're seeing the locker room scene.
yeah.
Where Edith learns that, her dad, asked them to leave and bribed them to leave. And because he doesn't want them to be together. And Edith's like, oh my God, I need to go find him.
Yeah.
But then we get the locker room scene. Laura, do you want to?
So after he's ordered his coffee and port and his shower has been drawn for him, Edith's dad is, I think he's maybe shaving or starting to shave or something. He's
Mhm.
looking in the mirror. And the sink is filling up with water. And you just see this hand come up behind him, and he turns and he looks and he sees somebody, and you can tell he recognizes the person, but we don't know who this person is. And they just take his head and just bang it into the side of the sink, and then the sink that was filling with water is turning this, the color of our drink, actually.
Really?
Color of
Pretty
your
accurate. Mhm.
It's just
uncanny.
it's turning the water red, and they just are repeatedly banging his head. It breaks the porcelain of the sink, and he's
just smashes
his head.
face in,
It-
like concave.
That scene was
That's bad.
was so long too.
Yeah,
It was long.
Like
yeah.
you're really watching it all go down. Like I should have counted how long that scene
Yeah.
was, because like they make you watch it for a second. That was a
Mhm.
gruesome
Mhm.
scene.
Okay, so let me ask. I've seen this movie quite a few times because I'm a big fan of it. So I've
Oh, yeah.
probably seen it like 5 times.
We didn't talk about that before.
Yeah.
But if it was your first time watching it, did you have a feeling you knew who it was when you very first watched it? Like, did you say, oh, I know who this killer is? Or were you like, I don't know who this could possibly be?
I mean, yeah.
I suspect I thought that it was Sir Thomas Sharp.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what
I
I
thought it was the dude. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured it was. So actually, yeah, I've only seen this movie once before. And I
Okay.
watched it when it was released in 2015 in theater.
Yeah.
So like went to the theater to watch it. And I had forgotten so much about this movie. I
Me too.
remembered kind of liking it. I don't even remember liking it that much. I remember like kind of liking it in 2015. So watching it again, it was honestly like watching it for the first time. I did not remember anything about this movie. And I'm so
Okay.
happy you watched it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. I was
Laura,
just-
had you watched it before?
Yes, so I've been
we went and saw it.
we did go and see it together.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then also I've just been a big fan of Guillermo del Toro for a long time. Like I love his movies. They're just so artistically cool. So for a while when he was like super, I mean he's still big now, but when he was like releasing
He
a lot,
had a
Yeah.
real big era.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
just releasing a lot. So I saw them all because I just love his movies.
Yeah. Have you
So.
seen Pinocchio? Just a
Not
small
yet.
plug.
No, I
No.
haven't
Oh,
yet. But the
you need to watch it.
preview,
You
Yeah.
need to watch it.
Is it kind of scary?
It's just very
looks-
well done, and it's so his
Okay.
style. It's
Just
really
all
cool.
of his movies are dark, even if they're not scary. They're kind of just
Yeah.
dark.
He just
So,
knows how to set a scene. It's
Yeah.
again, not to talk about another movie, but it's an interesting take on Pinocchio.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
and Netflix has like a whole behind the scenes on making it. That's like
cool.
45 minutes long that you can watch after on like how they did all it, because it took them like 13 years to make that movie.
Oh my gosh.
It
Really?
was a long time coming.
Alright.
Would
gonna watch
recommend if
that.
anyone hasn't watched it, definitely go watch Pinocchio.
Okay.
Okay, I'm adding it to my list.
Mhm.
Okay. So Edith's poor father has died.
Oh,
Yeah.
Murdered.
oh. Wait, what was his name? Totally
I don't
forgot.
even remember.
know.
Carter.
Well, I
His name was
genuinely
Carter.
couldn't have picked, and I've
Nope.
seen this movie like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like, nope.
Yeah.
Just her
Mhm.
father is all I knew. Okay, so he has perished.
Yeah.
And right after he dies, we cut back to the scene of Edith in her chase to get back to go find Edward. Or not
Thomas.
Thomas. What did I say?
Edward, because it's Edwardian.
Doesn't he look like an Edward though?
Kind of does. Yeah.
Okay,
He has an Edward vibe.
sorry, Thomas. I'm gonna keep doing that. I can just tell you right now. I know it's gonna happen.
It's in my mind now. We're gonna call him Edward.
Brianna calls him Edward.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, so Edith is running back to Thomas and they do reunite at the hotel. He didn't leave. Lucille did go back, but he didn't leave because he's just so in love with her and he thinks of her at the most inconvenient of times.
Oh.
I love that line. I was like, oh,
Oh, I did love that
Thomas.
line.
sorry.
It was very
They're
romantic.
sharp.
It was.
So then they cut to her finding out that her dad has died and she has to go identify the body. And oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Can
again, we see the corpse and
Well, and
Also, okay,
we
I wrote it down because Alan shows up, right?
yep.
And he's like, oh, like I'm his doctor. I'll identify it. And they're like, nope, sorry. It has to be Edith. It's like, I'm sorry. In what world can your doctor not identify you?
I'm guessing it's something to do with the will, like the will and testament. I'm guessing it
maybe.
has to be
Okay.
because he has like quite an inheritance.
All right. I'm putting that in my will. My
Yeah.
doctor can identify me.
Yeah, I'm putting in my will that just anyone can
Just
identify.
kind of anyone.
My doctor doesn't know me. No.
My doctor
Sorry.
has no idea.
Just any doctor can identify.
therapist can identify
Yeah,
me.
your therapist can identify
Yeah.
you, sure. But
That's fine. If anyone doesn't know, I love my therapist and I will talk about her at any chance that I get.
yes, it's very true. But
Everyone
also,
therapy.
Everyone go to therapy.
Everybody go to therapy.
Everyone go to therapy. This is not related, but also, can we talk about that autopsy room?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is that one show, Penny Dreadful? It made me think of Penny Dreadful. Like,
Oh.
like the set from that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Just it was so creepy, and just the they weren't beds. It was almost like they were like tombs or something that the bodies were on, and you just see the blood dripping down from the little like concrete bed thing he's on. Oh, it was amazing. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get a ton of gore in this movie, but the ones that we do get are
Mhm.
really intense.
No, they are. It's really gruesome.
They go 0 to 60 on
Yes.
that. And I honestly, I appreciate it.
Same.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The autopsy room.
Okay, so yeah, the autopsy has happened, and then they cut to the funeral,
Yeah.
and we see that she has the ring on.
The
So
ring.
they've gotten married or engaged at this point, at least they've gotten engaged, and then basically it just cuts to them moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they moved
So
to
they showed
Crimson
it.
Peak.
What was the place called?
Allerdale Hall.
Allerdale Hall.
Yeah. I think so. Let me
Yeah.
let me check that.
Nope, that sounds right.
Yeah, that's right. Allerdale Hall.
Yeah, so they show up and we find out that they are in fact married. They got married.
Mhm.
And they're here to live now. And we meet the cute little puppy. There's a little dog.
Yeah.
Oh. And she gets the dog. And so Lucille was already at the house.
Yeah.
And she gives Edith kind of a cold welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's a little mad that she's there.
Yeah. Because
And
Edith even asks for like a key because she's like, hey, I, live here now. Maybe I could have like a key. And Lucille's like, no, there are parts of the house that are unsafe. So we want to make sure you know where to go and where not to go. So maybe later, tell me later. And then she like grasps the keys.
yeah. She's like, if there's anywhere you need to go, I'll let you in.
Yeah. Which, that's really normal.
Right. And I think we should describe a little bit Crimson Peak.
Mm-hmm.
Because so we alluded to this machine that Thomas has invented, because they have this very special red soil that I forget if it's that it's sustainable or strong or flexible, but something about the soil is like going to revolutionize the world or something. But it turns the ground red.
Bright
red, crimson, for lack of a better word.
Right.
So we kind of see them, and at this point, Edith still doesn't know that they call it Crimson Peak. But as you're walking into the house, you see it's just the soil is red. There's just kind of this, the Allerdale Hall is just massive. It looks like kind of a disheveled castle from Beauty and the Beast or something. Like it's this huge
it's this just decrepit mansion.
It's all falling apart.
Yeah. But when you very first walk in, when they very, very, very first get there and then walk in, it's before you see the giant hole. So like when you first walk in, it does look beautiful. Like you walk in, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's this giant, gorgeous castle. And then as you walk in, you see the giant hole. I love the hole. I love the giant hole detail.
I love it.
The whole set, like it's almost like the house is another character.
Oh,
it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
They have this house. It really is its own entity within the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just blown away by the set. Like, I think that's why I've watched it so many times, because I love just being in this world.
It's just so beautiful. Yeah.
And they built the house for this movie. So when they were getting ready, what's his name? The actor that plays Thomas. Oh, Tom Hiddleston.
Oh,
he asked, he asked Guillermo del Toro, like, oh, is there a house that we're gonna use? Like what's the set gonna look like? And Guillermo was like, no, like we're building it. We're building this house because he had a very specific vision of what it was going to look like. And the only way to do it was to build it. So they built a 3-story set. When you walk in, that scene where you walk into the house, they built all 3 stories of that.
Oh my God.
None of that was CGI or added. All of that was built.
Wow.
Now,
Which is insane.
Do they keep that? Because I would go to it.
Right. I know they had to take it down because I think they needed the stage space for something else. But I know it's like you built this whole thing, just leave it up, let people go see it. I would love to tour it.
Like, you know how they have Disneyland? I want them to have like
Horrorland.
Yeah.
Where it's got like the Nightmare Before Christmas and it's got like the Blair Witch Project. And it's got like it has all these different like Epcot, but for horror.
Yeah. I was gonna say like Universal Studios, but only horror movies.
Oh my gosh, wait, you guys. We're gonna revolutionize the world.
Yes. We need this.
Yeah, horror world.
Yes.
Love it.
Oh,
okay.
Love it. I'd go.
All right. Cool. Yeah. If someone has like some like seed money that they want to like send us for that. Like $1
billion.
Yeah. My Venmo is
we'll set up our Patreon and the funds can go
Patreon.
The funds can go toward that.
Our $1 million category.
Elon, if you're listening, you can just pitch in anytime. Call us.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of this beautiful house they built, I felt like it was very. So do either of you know much about the Gaudi architecture?
No.
Okay. So in Barcelona, Spain, there's this very famous architect, Gaudi, and he has these freaking insane houses. And I mean, he also built like all of these other buildings, like churches and just stuff all around like Barcelona, Spain. But I went to Barcelona when I was in college, and there's this house and it looks almost like kind of like a fun house with just all these like weird angles, and like instead of it being like, parallel 90-degree walls and stuff, like there's just this beautiful flow and stuff. And I feel like this house like had a lot of like Gaudi inspiration.
Yeah. I mean, I know they pulled from a lot of stuff during that era to try to, from way before, I guess, 1901, to try to make it look old and get, they had like a bunch, honestly, it's so many details. I would love like a very detailed tour of it. Yeah. They had so much like the wallpaper was something that they designed. All of the paintings, the ceiling I thought was really cool. I know that was something that, I mean, you don't normally have to worry about a ceiling in sets because most people just don't shoot the ceiling. You just don't see it. But you did in this movie. And so they had seen, I forget where the designers had seen it, but there are kind of these like very detailed, kind of like pokey things that fall down from the ceiling.
Like the molding.
The molding that like comes down. And so when they realized that they did have to do the ceiling, they pitched this, and Guillermo was like, absolutely, yes, go add that. Just to give it, again, that like, uneasy feeling when you look up into the ceiling and you see all these things caving down, pointing down at you.
Yeah. It's almost like
hallway.
Oh, yes.
So good. Like it's almost like the things coming down are like, I forget which is a stalagmite and which is a stalactite.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Those.
Totally. We're not archaeologists. We don't know the difference.
Yeah, we're not biologists.
We're not architects.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Antoni Gaudí was he was from 1852 to 1926 is when he lived. So right around that same time.
Cool. During that time.
But I think, we talked in a previous episode about the fact about how we want to do like a tour of haunted things eventually.
Yes.
Maybe we need to go to Barcelona.
Definitely.
And see Gaudi architecture because it's very clearly,
some of it has to be haunted.
Our tour just became international.
Yes. Clearly Spooky Sips International.
Yep.
Again, it's fine. Yeah.
Help us with our Patreon.
No, guys, like it's fine because like it's a write-off.
It's a write-off.
IRS don't come for me.
Yeah.
We're kidding.
IRS is listening. That was a
joke.
That was what we call comedy.
We don't make enough for IRS to pay attention to us.
Yeah, that's true. because we don't make anything.
You guys, I did get audited once, but it was from an honest
I remember
mistake. We
that.
like counted something in a way that we thought we hadn't, and
That
you know,
terrifies Gary
Yeah,
and me.
yeah.
it's not that big of a deal.
But it sounds scary.
I mean, if you
When
do it on
when you told us you were
Right.
audited by the IRS, I was like, oh God.
Oh
are
my
they
God, my
okay?
worst nightmare.
Anyway, I digress.
Anyway, what movie are we
Oh my gosh, right.
watching?
We're
So,
yes.
yeah, we've gotten to the house.
Mhm.
Oh, and there's a scene. Okay, so Edith is trying to get used to the house.
Yep.
And, Lucille is giving her a cold welcome, and it's just very different. The house is very cold because, the giant hole in the ceiling.
Yeah.
And as she's trying to get used to the house, there's a scene where, and I'm sure you both will know why I'm thinking the scene is so familiar, where a red ball gets rolled to her in the room.
Mhm.
And then she
Yes.
rolls the red ball back, but the dog is not there. The hotel that we
Yes.
met.
Yes.
And so then I'm thinking, when did that season of American Horror Story come out? Which was first? Crimson Peak or American Horror Story with the red ball?
I don't know which one was first. I would
I have
think
no
Crimson
idea.
Peak.
Because that was Murder House season, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was so early.
That
Okay,
was
let's-
early.
Let's fact check.
Yeah, I would
American-
think that American Horror Story was after. But it's such an identical scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
American Horror Story was 2011.
Oh my
They
gosh,
did it
okay.
First.
So they did it
Cool.
first. We love American Horror Story. It's not a movie,
We
but we do
do.
love it.
Hey,
We
I
really do.
mean, we don't just do movies. We could
No,
do
I
that.
think we've got to do a deep dive in American Horror Story one time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A few times.
Yeah.
Have like
Yeah.
intermissions of episodes of American Horror
Mhm.
Story.
Yeah. Let us know your favorite season.
Yes.
We'll
Ooh,
dive
yeah.
into it. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do a fan vote for what
Mhm.
season we
I
should do.
love that.
Okay, yes, let's do that.
As
Sold.
long as it's
Mhm.
not the really political one.
Oh yeah, we get
No.
vetoes.
No,
if
no,
you
no.
vote for that one.
No, I don't. I totally would because I thought that I hated it. So I didn't finish watching it. And then I did
Mhm.
go and watch it. And now I'm like, holy shit, that season has so much to unpack.
No, you're right. It does
Mm.
get better.
And
Okay,
it
fine.
does get, so I
We'll
didn't
put it to a vote.
We're going down real deep rabbit hole.
Oh my God, I
ladies.
know.
Let's get back to the freaking.
Okay.
Oh,
Allerdale Hall.
so she's in Allerdale Hall. There's the red ball. It's cold. I also noted how freaking uncomfortable her nightgown looks.
Oh my gosh, the sleeves.
The turtle.
neck.
The turtle. I know
thing
it's so
around the neck.
tight.
I couldn't do
Like,
the neck thing.
That is not
Yeah.
a cozy sleeping gown, and it's also
No.
not cute.
No, it's just not good all
She
around.
pulls it off.
So
She
we
pulls
should
it off, but
say that we learn early on that she is being poisoned by her tea. Like we
Mhm.
know that as the audience because we
Yeah.
see Lucille and Edward making her tea.
Yeah.
So we know that
Yes.
she's being poisoned and she
Yes.
starts to not feel so good.
Mhm.
And Lucille is just really pushing her to drink her tea all the time.
Yeah.
And she mentions that it's bitter. So like we as the audience know she's being poisoned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then at one point, and maybe you both can remember, when does she see the ghost in the bathtub with the knife in the ghost's head?
Yes. That's somewhat early on. And she
Yeah.
sees a lot of ghosts. I tried
She
to
sees a
write
lot of
down
ghosts.
how many ghosts we end up seeing, and it's a lot. It's a
Hmm.
lot of ghosts, but that's one of the
Early.
trying to
on.
think. Yeah, it's kind of like in like the middle, I think. of when she's
And so
there.
she sees this ghost with a hatchet, I think, in its head. And we've got the moment because she wakes during a nightmare
Mhm.
and she goes into the bathroom and that's when she sees the ghost, which again is just the cool ethereal flowing
Oh, so beautiful.
blood and smoke of the ghost with the hatchet
Mhm.
head. And she runs down the stairs and she mentions what she sees. And Lucille tells her brother, how could she have known about her?
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
like, what?
So
Mm.
clearly, yeah, things are starting to
Like, how could she have known about
reveal.
who? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then I think before that is when we get the ghost in the closet. You know,
Yes.
the one that's like poking out and then shuts, and then that's where Edith finds the kind of the sound
cylinders.
wax cylinder things that had been recorded, and the ghost in the hall that pops out of the floor.
Yes, that
So
one
creepy.
creeped me out in the way that it
God.
like creepy crawls.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
No, yeah, that one was really good though. And then I think that's where she freaks out, right? Runs to
Yep.
Thomas and Lucille. And I did think it was interesting. In the scene right after, they're once again like sitting her down trying to give her tea. And one of the things that they did for the movie is when Edith was getting poisoned and getting weaker, they created a lot of things that were 30% larger. So the chair that she was sitting in, the kind of butterfly looking chair, was 30% bigger in that scene. And the teacup was 30% bigger, the one that they gave her. So the things around her started getting bigger in order to show her getting smaller and weaker, which I was noticing, like there was something I didn't know that that's what it was, but there was something in that scene where it was like, she just looks so frail
Yeah.
and weak and small. And yeah.
That is so brilliant.
Right?
I never would have thought to do something like that. Like,
Yeah.
this is why I'm not a famous movie producer, director, but that is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And
I
think you noticed it. Yeah. Like you started to sense something, right? Like she was being poisoned. She felt weak. Like it was,
Wow.
just a bunch of stuff was 30% bigger in order to show that.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Just so good.
Well, and then she starts to catch on. So she starts to catch on that, like, something is wrong with the tea.
Yep.
So she starts to refuse the tea.
Yeah.
And then Lucille will Lucille, right? I don't know why, like randomly in the middle of doing our podcast, I forget the girl's name. Anyway, she then was feeding Edith, you know, to help her get better. And so she's feeding her soup or porridge or something.
Porridge.
And as she's doing it, the sound of the spoon scraping on the cup was so revolting to me. That was the worst part of the entire movie.
Yeah.
That was my favorite scene. I wrote this down. That was my favorite scene. The way that she just dragging the spoon along the rim of the bowl and the teacup. It's so good. Lucille was toxic in the best way.
Oh,
and
she
the
was.
way that she's telling the story of her mother's injury and how she cared for her mother, and how her father was violent,
bed.
In the same, like, oh my God, just the whole cumulative scene is genius. And I love.
God.
Yeah.
Yes. So we should also say, while all of this is happening back home in Buffalo, Alan has gotten in touch with the PI because he has his own suspicions. Like he saw the stub of the check and he can kind of tell that there's something going on. And so he gets back in touch with the PI and he's like, I want to know what report you gave her father. And so the PI duplicates the report and gives it to Alan. And that's where we learn that Sir Thomas Sharp, is already married.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Alan is like, oh shit, I have got to go get her. So he races off to England, gets on a boat, goes to England.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Edith is just getting sicker and sicker. She's starting to cough up blood. She's, they're showing her as weaker. And I have to say, it was really kind of a unworldly experience because I had a full-blown COVID while watching this. So I am coughing like crazy. Can't handle it while watching this. And she's coughing. And I was like, same girl, same. I felt the same.
We should have sent you some porridge to get through it.
Oh God.
Aww.
So it's just one of those things where it's like I was like, an out of body experience. I was watching myself watching this, having it while watching.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and I guess one thing we should talk about is Edith and Thomas do leave for a day. Because things do start getting weird, and Edith does want to leave. And that's where Thomas is like, oh, we need to go to the post office anyway. So why don't you come with me?
You could use some fresh air.
Yeah, get out of the house. And while they're there, one of the employees mentions, actually, we have a room if you guys, I think there was a storm or something, right, coming.
Yep, a snowstorm.
And they overhear, and he's like, oh, actually, we have a room if you want to stay here. And they're like, okay, yeah. I'm like, we'll stay. So Thomas and Edith spend the night.
Oh, biblically.
They finally consummate the marriage because they made it a point to say that they hadn't done that before.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, and she seems happy for the first time since before her dad died. Honestly.
And while she's there, she receives some letters. Most of them are about her inheritance, but there's also one from Italy to Mrs. Sharp, to Lady Sharp.
Yes. Which, how do you not open those immediately?
I know.
Like, girl, you knew something was sus. You knew something was wrong. Open those immediately.
So once they get back to the house, she does open the letter, and it's addressed to Enola Sharp.
Yes.
And she recognizes the name from the keys that Lucille carries around.
Yes.
So the next time that she's around Lucille, she gets the Enola key.
Yes. And speaking of which, Lucille is pissed.
Yes.
Lucille is so mad that they didn't come home last night. Yes. She runs into her in the kitchen, and Lucille's like cooking or something. And, they mentioned that they ended up staying the night, and she grabs the pan off the stove and slams it on the table. That was so, and at that point we're like, oh yeah, no, Lucille's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
Lucille is, because she
crazy.
even says, I can't be left alone.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, she tries to play it off like, oh, I was worried. Like, what if you guys, like, something had happened, or,
but you get the vibe that she was mad that they were alone together.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she does not. That is not the reaction of someone who was worried they were, in trouble.
So yeah, at this point, Edith's radar is like going off. So she steals the Enola key.
Yeah.
And she goes down to the basement, which she has been forbidden to go down to.
Down the creepy elevator.
Yep. Down the creepy elevator, which, as someone that has a legitimate fear of elevators, that elevator creeps me out.
No, it's pretty creepy.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So she goes down to the basement, and there's a bunch of chests down there, and she sees one with the initials ES. And so she tries to open it, and it works. And she opens this chest, and she finds is it called a gramophone?
I have no idea what it's called.
I think that's what
sounds
it's
right.
called. A gramophone.
Yeah, the thing to play the cylinders.
So she takes that, but then she also finds these envelopes from all of the places that she had learned that they had been to where they had tried to get money before. So there's like Milan and Copenhagen or wherever else they had been.
Yeah.
She also grabs all these envelopes. She goes back upstairs. She gets the key back on the ring, hides it from Edith or from Lucille very closely, and then that night she goes into the library to listen to the wax cylinders.
Yes. And we see the photos of Thomas with all these other women. Clearly they were married, and we get
marriage certificates.
Yes. So now we learned their scam, basically.
And we hear the wax cylinder recordings, which there is just something inherently creepy about these recordings. Like the voices of being like, say that you love me. And oh my gosh, like and she sounds frail, in the voice. And also it just sounds really old, the way that it's like cutting through as a recording. Oh, they're so cool. So she finally gets to the last one, which is basically a warning. Of being like, they are trying to kill me. They just want me for my money.
And that's from Enola.
And this is from Enola. Yes. Which, do you know what Enola is backwards?
Brianna, that's what I was waiting to say this to you.
Okay, you can say it.
No, you can say it.
No, you do it.
Well, because I'm over here and I'm like, Enola is it's not weird. It's a little odd. It's a rare name. Right? It's not a common name. And I'm like, Enola. And then I'm like working out as I'm watching the movie. I'm like, say it backwards. It's Alone.
Oh.
But then her last name before she married Sharp was Schiotti. It was
Uh-huh.
Nola Schiotti.
Mhm.
So then I was like, well, is that something backwards? No, it's Itoix. So
Oh yeah, that's
all
not,
right. Well,
that
yeah,
goes nowhere.
Schiotti doesn't work, but Enola means
But
alone.
yeah.
Oh.
Anyway.
Anyways.
So yeah. So we learned that. And then it kind of just like jumping ahead, Edith sees another ghost. This time a ghost with a baby.
With a baby ghost.
Oh, and she goes out in the hallway, and then I think she asks the ghost, "What are you trying to show me?" Because she's kind of realizing that maybe the ghosts are trying to tell her something. So she asks, like, "Are you trying to show me something? Like, what's going on?" And the ghost points to a
To the
room.
upstairs. To the
So Edith
attic.
goes and checks it out. And what does she see?
Well, she hears singing, first of all.
All right, first the singing.
She hears the lullaby that
Oh.
Lucille had mentioned she used to sing to Edward, to Thomas.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't want to
I can't say it. One of you can. I can't do it.
Okay, I'll say it. So the door opens, and the first thing I noticed is that her hair is down, and she's got this long ass hair that goes all the way down.
Yeah.
I did not even notice that.
I noticed the hair,
I was paying attention to the hand job.
Yeah, the hand was more noticeable.
but it's basically Lucille humming into Thomas's ear whilst fondling his member.
Yeah. That's a good way to say it.
What's a better way to say
No,
it?
that's the best.
I just said hand job, which is not as pretty.
Way.
No, my way is not as romantic.
Yeah.
It was very romantic, but brother and sister
Oh.
deep embrace,
Yeah.
as deep as
Yeah.
you can get, and she bails. She's like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
out of here. So she starts running down the hallway.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And Lucille and Thomas kind of come after her. And at this point, Lucille's like, all right, you know what's happening.
Cat's out of the bag.
Done pretending. Let's just, figure this out. So they're kind of like chasing her. And this is where someone knocks on the door. But Lucille doesn't care. She's mad. She's trying to move forward. And she pushes Edith off the stairs.
Well, first she grabs the ring.
Yes.
She pulled the ring off of
yeah.
Edith's finger.
Yes.
And then shoves her off the banister.
And she hits one set of stairs, like the next story, and then falls on the ground.
Yep. But at least she falls where there was the giant hole in the ceiling and it had been snowing.
Yes, so she fell in the snow pile.
Yeah, her fall was a bit cushioned.
Yeah.
By the snow a bit.
By the way, the actress did perform this stunt herself. She did not have a stunt woman.
Oh,
She
really?
was attached to wires and then landed on a mattress, but she did this whole thing herself, which is terrifying because we know that was a 3-story fall.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
good for her.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a badass because I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So who was at the door but Alan?
Mm-hmm.
And so the next scene is Edith opening her eyes slowly. She's in a ton of pain. She's broken her foot, her ankle, something. She's broken, her foot or her ankle. And Alan is checking on her. She opens her eyes and she sees Lucille and Thomas standing there. And they're just basically saying, oh, she's been so ill. She had a terrible fall. She's been delusional.
Yeah.
Make sure to throw that in there.
Yep.
Alan is not buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Alan's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not taking any of this. So he's like, I need to see my patient alone, where he basically tells Edith, like, we got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got to go.
Which at this point, watching the movie, at least the first time I watched it, I thought, all right, great. Alan's here. He figured it out. He's going to save her. End of movie.
Yep.
Happy ending. He's going to carry her away and that's it. But that doesn't last very long.
But no, that ends real quickly.
We get like 5
Lucille
seconds of thinking that maybe this is going to be okay.
Yep. Nope. Lucille gets him. She stabs him right when she realizes
armpit.
In the armpit.
Of all places.
I've had this debate with my good friend Liz. One time we were drunk in Vegas and we were talking about a place that like on your body that would be the least painful to be injured. And so my hypothesis was that, actually, I forget whose was whose. One of us theorized that like a kick to the armpit, for example, would be like the least painful place to be kicked. Whereas the other hypothesized, no, actually, I think that would be the most painful place to be kicked.
Huh.
So actually, I have empirical evidence on this, ladies. Because we did an experiment where I had to kick Liz in the armpit.
How did it go?
No, she said it didn't hurt that bad.
Okay. Okay, but
A
Liz played
stab.
football, so I don't judge her pain tolerance.
True, but she's also a bit of a sissy lala, as she likes to say.
But a kick to the armpit is different than a knife.
And I do think there is maybe some major stuff there
happening. Like some nose and
maybe a knife to the armpit is less painful than a knife to other parts of the body. But it is notable.
I don't think Lucille was doing it to be considerate.
Again, we digress.
So stab to the armpit, and then Lucille kind of turns to Thomas and she's like, all right, like I've been picking up your mess this whole time. It's your turn. You have to stab him now. So we realize, I mean, obviously we knew the whole time Lucille was in charge, but she's clearly in charge.
Yeah.
Because here is also where we find out their first ever crime and murder.
Oh, that's right.
Because she's basically goading Thomas into being like, look, I've always been the one. So here is where because Alan presents a newspaper article to Edith that is of what happened at the mansion, which is where a mother was hatcheted to death. And one of the children was sent away to an asylum. And we learned that Lucille killed their mother with a hatchet to the head.
But they were never charged for it because they couldn't imagine that it would be the children. So
right.
So she basically she's telling Thomas, like, it's your turn. So Thomas goes to Alan and is like, tell me where to stab you that it won't kill you. So Alan shows him where to stab him, and Thomas does. Yeah. And this is when Edith freaks out and is like, you are monsters, both of you. Yes. And I love this because then Lucille goes, honey, that's the last thing that mother said.
Ah, so good. Oh, I loved that. That was so good.
Yep.
So good.
So then we get, what is it? So Thomas is trying to hide Alan in the mines, the clay mine place downstairs.
Yes.
While Lucille is trying to get Edith to sign the document because she hasn't officially signed everything away, which is why they've been keeping her alive the whole time. Yeah. So she's trying to get her to do this. Edith has the pen that her dad gave her as she's trying to kind of talk to her, get her to come closer, where she stabs Lucille in like the arm.
I think the chest, the top of her chest.
Yeah. So she stabs her, enough that she kind of like backed away, and Edith tries to run away. She runs into Thomas in the elevator, I think, where he's like, oh, like, I'm going to fix this. Wait,
so
here,
sorry.
I'll be right back. I'm sorry. He goes in there, which, okay, like, girl, keep going.
Like, just run. Don't wait, Thomas.
Run. When the fact that he's like, okay, yeah, honestly, I'm going to fix this. Don't even worry about it. Like, just wait here. I'll be right back. Like, no. GTFO. This is not the time to wait. But she waits. And then we get the scene between Lucille and Thomas.
Such a good scene. I love this scene.
It was so brutal.
So they essentially are in this lover's quarrel.
Yeah. Because Thomas burns the papers.
Because he burns the papers. She's like, what are you doing? And he basically says, like, look, let's just start over. The three of us can just leave.
And she's like, the three of
us? What did you just say? So she takes the pen from her chest wound, pulls it out, and stabs Thomas right in the face.
Like through the cheek, but it like goes up to the eye.
And I'm guessing his brain,
Oh yeah, like
Yeah,
you
a
would
partial lobotomy.
definitely die.
because
Yeah.
he staggers back with just this bewildered look on his face, and all of a sudden, like blood starts
Like
Bloody.
crying.
tear
bloody
duct,
tear.
Yeah.
Bloody tear.
and he's gone. And this is when Lucille is like, "I'm gonna get this bitch." So she
Yeah.
like
Well, and
runs
she,
after
she kind of
Edith.
realizes what she's done because she does it. She stabs him, and then she kind of takes a second to be like, "Oh my god, wait! I just killed him!" Like
I just killed my love.
yeah. She kind of
Mhm.
processes for a second.
well, and part of her rage too is that she discovered that Thomas had slept with Edith.
Yeah.
then
and
we
that
kind
he
of get that-
loved her.
Yeah, we
And he-
kind of
yeah,
get
he
that
loved her.
understanding
Mhm.
of the fact that Lucille and Thomas, they had this arrangement where he was supposed to marry all these women for their money, but he was never supposed to fall in love, and he was never supposed to actually sleep
Yeah.
with them.
Right.
So like she
Yeah.
discovered that not only did he started to break the rules. He started
Yeah.
to branch out from her.
Because we realized
Control.
the baby was Lucille's.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it
It
wasn't
was
that they.
deformed.
Yeah, it wasn't that it was one of their babies. It was Lucille's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because at first we thought it was Enola's, I think.
Yeah.
But then
Oh,
we
that's what I
learned
thought. Yeah.
that no, it was Lucille's.
Yeah.
Oh,
So then we get into basically the final battle.
chase down.
Yeah, between Edith and Lucille.
That fight in the elevator was so badass.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Loved it.
Oh, so good.
Like
right?
just
So
these two women just like
when Edith is slamming this because it's like the metal door and kind of is like an accordion the way
Like
it
the
shuts. When
grate,
she's
kinda.
like
Yeah.
shutting it on her arm and like just like stabbing for her arm. Oh, it was so good.
so good. So good.
So
Yeah.
they chase each other through the elevator and then through the basement of the house, and they end
Mhm.
up back outside near the invention. And it's very quiet outside. It's very foggy and
Mhm.
icy. And you just, when it's just snowed and it's that
Mhm.
very quiet air,
Yeah.
it's like that outside. And it's
That's
just the
yeah.
two of them
Mhm.
between the equipment, between all the invention and the equipment, kind of trying to find one another.
Yeah, it's like hide and seek almost.
Yeah.
It's
it
almost
is.
like hide and seek. And basically, once they found each other and they've hit each other a couple of times, Lucille is like, I will not stop until one of us dies.
Yep.
Mhm.
Like, I will not. She makes a promise, right?
Mhm.
And I love it because like they hit each other a couple of more times and then she says it again.
Mhm.
She's like, I will not stop until one of us dies. And
Yeah.
Edith just smacks her over the head with a shovel. And she's like, I heard you the first time.
She's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
heard you.
Well, but the reason she's able to do it is because she
yes.
talks to someone like, hey, aren't you going to help? Or she says something along the
Yeah,
lines.
like help me.
Like help me, to something behind her. And Lucille's like, what are you doing? And she's like, he's there. Turn around, look at him. And we see Thomas's ghost.
And I
has now
love his
appeared.
ghost
Oh yeah,
So
his ghost
good.
was cool.
with
Yeah.
the blood
like the
Coming-
blood
floating
coming out of his
out.
cheek.
billowing
Oh,
out of the cheek where he'd been stabbed with a pen and
So good.
yeah.
So good. Which distracts Lucille long enough for Edith to get a good hit
Yep.
at the end.
And then she goes and she gets Alan and
Yeah, saves him.
she saves Alan.
And they
Yeah.
leave.
And then we see kind of the people in town that Alan had gone to talk
Yep.
to, who have come to give them help.
So they're going to be okay.
They're going to be
Mhm.
okay. And then we see the ghost of Lucille,
Yep.
which is the black ghost, playing the piano.
Playing the piano.
Playing the piano.
Insane.
And then we get the credits, and the end credits. I loved how the end credits were like what beginning credits of movies used to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Which
were.
was just a
Totally.
really cool way to do it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, and I guess, then we in the end credits, we learn this was the story that Edith wrote.
Yes. Her ghost, her love
This
story
is-
with a ghost
yes,
in
A
it.
ghost story with
Mhm.
a ghost.
Yes.
Ah,
Oh,
Oh, so good.
it was so good.
So
It was
good.
so good.
Cue applause.
Ah.
I love this movie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is this a good time to get into some psych?
Yes.
Get into some psych.
It's a great time to get into psych.
Yes.
Let's get into some psych. So I know when we started this podcast, we did a little bit more diagnosing and then we did a little bit more theory. Tonight's a combo.
Oh,
Tonight is a combo of those.
And just remember, folks, she is not a real doctor, but it's okay because they are not real people.
yes.
They are fake ghosts
Yes.
and characters.
The ghosts might be real, but the people are
The
fake.
people are
Yes.
fake. So let's talk about the psychology of the color red.
Ooh,
Oh,
yes.
That's not something we've done before.
I mean, color is so important in this movie. Yeah.
Yes. So red is associated with strong emotions like love, passion, anger. It's also used to signify things like strength, power, courage, and danger. It can also be linked to like increased appetites. So if you want, a lot of restaurants will put red in their restaurants to increase, to psychologically make people want to eat more.
Interesting.
It is associated. Wait, you guys have never heard that?
I didn't know that.
Don't
But now
ever
I'm
make your-
thinking of how many restaurants have red logos.
And there's so many.
No, don't
Yeah.
make your kitchen red because if you do, you'll eat more.
Huh.
Because your mind, it triggers appetites.
Interesting.
Well, and we'll talk about why in just a second. So yeah, it's linked to increased appetites. It's linked to sexuality. So there's a whole bunch of psychology that goes behind the color red.
Mhm.
When people see red, it can elicit responses and reactions. Like you're going to be motivated to avoid the thing that's red at times, like red is danger. So that's why red is in warning signs, because psychologically, like we'll see red and we think, okay, avoid that. That's danger. That's why it feels so good to get rid of our little red notifications
Oh,
on our apps,
yeah.
because it's like this, like, ooh, aversive color, get rid of it. But there's also non-aversive psychology associated with red. So we'll get to that in a second. But I just like that it's called Crimson Peak. Red is associated with warnings in our everyday life. And the warning from Edith's mom was beware of Crimson Peak.
Yeah.
So beware of the red. It all comes back together full circle.
Oh, we didn't talk about that. As soon as Edith realized, because she didn't realize it was Crimson Peak.
Right.
Later Thomas mentions something about Crimson Peak when she's like, wait, what did you just say?
Hold the phone.
Hold up,
It's after
what?
she's already there.
The nickname of this place is Crimson Peak. Girl, run.
Yeah.
I think
Your
that's when she
mother's ghost came back to you to warn you twice about one thing.
I think that's what finally gets her to realize that she's being poisoned too. Like
I think
that's
so.
right when that happens.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but girl,
No,
run.
So, but yeah, so some studies have shown that people will, things that they don't like, they will associate with the color red. So like if you had to assign a color to things, there's things, if you don't like them, you'll assign the color red to it versus other colors.
Oh.
Like my period. in my calendar, it's red.
I love that you're sitting in front of a red wall, Brianna.
I know.
My basement is red. So what does that mean?
So there's been one study that the people who have a preference for red, now again, this is just one study, but people who have a preference for red, they had higher interpersonal hostility.
Oh.
That also hostile people were biased to see the color red more frequently. So like they noticed the color red more if they had more like if they were rated higher on the hostility index.
Mm-hmm.
And a relationship between the color between the preference for the color red and hostile social decision making.
Interesting.
I'm just thinking of red baseball caps. I'm just going to say that. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
Just gonna throw that one out there.
That's it. That's all you need to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then I found this really interesting BBC article that talked about color psychology, and they spelled it COLOUR obviously the British.
Oh, yeah.
BBC British Broadcasting. What is
Right.
BBC? British Broadcasting
Channel.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So they talked about this psychology behind the color red and this color psychology field that's coming out. It's evolutionary. So we developed the ability to see red versus other animals because a lot of animals are colorblind.
Yeah.
We developed it so that we could sense, we could perceive berries on bushes, so we could eat them. That would kind of go to the appetite, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But also so that we could sense danger. And like red is associated with dominance. Like in there's certain species of monkeys where there's only one monkey that will have a red face, and that's the alpha male. That's the dominant male.
Oh.
So yeah, so it just in evolution, red is kind of associated with dominance.
Yeah.
And that can be because, you know, when you're working out, when you're, if you're physically fit and working out, your face is going to get red. So can it be associated with like being capable?
Like, have you heard the red nail theory on TikTok?
No, let's hear
No.
Like, apparently, if you have red nails, you're found more attractive by the other species.
it. Mhm.
And like, you're found to be more like capable and dominant. And like, yeah, like you are more desirable if you have red nails. So yeah, it's like the red nail theory.
There was a researcher named Elliot from the University of Rochester, where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a bunch of studies on red that exactly go along with your red nail theory, Brianna. So people, he did studies of people viewing identical pictures of people or identical people when they're wearing red or not. People view the people wearing red as more attractive.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah.
Even
I
if
think like going out dress, you know,
Yeah.
like I'm thinking red
Or lips.
But
Yeah,
here's
Going
the
out
oth-
lips.
Mhm.
Here's the other thing. Even if you then hid, like they're wearing red, but you only show them from the face up where you can't even see their outfit, they still vote them as more attractive.
What?
Wow.
So
Wild.
the theory behind that is that if you're then wearing red, it changes your own perceptive
Oh,
and
yeah.
presentation of yourself. You're like, "Ooh, I am fine. I'm gonna like, you know,
Mhm.
I'm just on fire." So you then become more attractive because you have this more confidence that you're more attractive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there was also two psychologists, Hill and Barton, that did the study about athletes, and they found that athletes who wore red performed better. Like they
Oh
were
my God.
matched according to the same skill level, but if you wore red, you did better. Or if the goalie, like in a hockey, if the goalie wore red versus didn't wear red, the players had a harder time scoring against the goalie who wore red.
Oh my gosh.
Because the theory is that you know, if you're the one wearing red, you view yourself as more aggressive or dominant,
Right.
and that triggers increased heart rate and testosterone boost.
Wow.
Interesting.
Conversely, though, people who were given the identical same cognitive tests, if it was presented from a red packet versus a non-red packet, you did worse if it was red.
Huh.
Oh, what's intimidating, you know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So red does play a factor in your psychology.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna notice red so much more now.
I know, right?
I'm
I
just
was
gonna ask people
thinking
what their
that.
favorite color is, and if it's red, I'm gonna
if
judge
it's
them.
red, just leave.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Bye.
But yeah, it's so true because I was thinking like this movie had just such a visceral kind of feeling that it
Mhm.
elicited, and I think that's because of some of the play of the colors that they did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. What I know for this movie, they intended red to be, so they intentionally did not use red anywhere in the film unless they intended to use it. You know, so the red was for the ghosts and the clay, and it was, you know, history, the ghosts, that's exclusively what they used red for.
Well, and the only
yeah.
time that Lucille wore red was when we first met her.
Yes.
So that makes sense, like to
Mhm.
get the very first impression of her.
That
Mhm.
danger,
Yeah.
that warning sign, psychologically, that's what your
Yep.
brain's going to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And the ring
The
was
ring
red.
is red. Yeah.
Crimson.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
So now we could get into just a bit of the psychology. I feel like cabin fever played a role in
Oh,
this movie.
yeah.
Totally.
That's not like a DSM, syndrome that people might have, but basically cabin fever is what psychological symptoms that a person could experience when they're confined to their home for extended periods. So I think we all know what that's like.
I was going to say, I think we
Yeah,
all experience
maybe.
collective cabin fever.
Collective cabin fever,
A little bit.
COVID, we know.
Yeah.
But symptoms can include things like boredom, irritability, restlessness, impatience, anxiety, low motivation, loneliness. Here's what I saw a little bit more in Edith.
You just described my whole personality.
I know. And I feel like Edith had a lot of the hopelessness, depression, and paranoia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So cabin fever is a real thing because we've all been through it. And some treatments for it would be get out of the house.
Yeah.
Get out of the cabin.
And we saw that with Edith. As soon as she got out, she was feeling better.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you can get out of the house, if you can, especially in these virtual days, go to therapy virtually or in person. Because usually that's going to be the best treatment, is being able to talk through it.
Makes sense.
Just develop some routines of things that interest you.
Yeah.
I feel like Edith was going through some cabin fever.
Totally.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So that was her, not diagnosis, but sort of, my psychological approach to what she was going through. But now let's talk about Thomas and Lucille.
Oh.
So we've got some things going on with them. I'm sure you both have heard of the term codependence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Relationship codependence. So the codependence is actually, it is not an accepted personality disorder. It is not in the DSM. It is not a thing. The reason behind that is because, some psychologists feel that it can kind of pathologize some normal human behavior of wanting to take care of one another, or it can kind of blame the behavior of one person on another without giving them identifying areas of their own personal responsibility. So codependence, that actual phrase is not accepted, but dependent personality disorder is in the DSM.
Oh, okay.
So first we're going to talk about the codependence, because it came from, it originated from, addiction, people going through addiction. So it was that there was a dysfunctional relationship where one person assumes the role of like the giver, like they're sacrificing their own needs for the well-being of the other. And so when in the area of substance abuse, that's when it was first coined, that phrase of codependence, just to describe that one-sided relationship between the person that has the addiction and the person that's enabling the addiction. But now it's more used for like these generic enabling relationships. So the modern definition would be a specific relationship characterized by a preoccupation on extreme dependence. And that could be emotional, social, or sometimes physical on another person. Typically, in that codependent relationship, the dependent person is going to have really low self-esteem. That would be Thomas.
Yep.
And we already talked about the one in control. The caregiver in a codependent relationship would be Lucille. They typically will be overly responsible, and they'll make excuses for the other person. But really, so that's kind of like a internet version of a diagnosis. But if you go, so in the DSM, the dependent personality disorder, I think this is what Thomas has got. This is what I'm diagnosing him. And this is a pervasive and excessive need to be taken care of. And that will lead to submissive and clingy behavior and fears of separation, which I think we definitely see in Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you can see that with him having difficulty making everyday decisions.
Yep.
Without like excessive reassurance from other people, including Lucille or anyone else he comes into contact with. He needs other people to assume responsibility for most major areas of his life. He can't express disagreement. Which he has a hard time. Like, he can't disagree with Lucille with what she says.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're supposed to get that this is the first time that he's ever had a disagreement with Lucille.
Exactly.
With Edith. Yeah.
Yeah. He can't really like initiate or do things on his own because of this low self-confidence. He goes to excessive lengths to obtain nurturance and support from others. So, murdering people,
That might be extreme.
marrying all these women from different countries. I think he's going to pretty excessive lengths.
Yeah, that might be like a bit excessive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's uncomfortable or helpless when he's alone. He urgently seeks another relationship as a source of care when the first relationship he has ends.
Oh.
So he's with Lucille. As soon as he thinks that maybe that's not going great, he then goes to Edith. But as soon as then, I feel like he like bounces between the two. Like, he's always going to attach to one. He can't be on his own.
Yeah.
And he's just preoccupied with fears of being left to take care of himself. So I'm diagnosing Thomas with dependent personality disorder.
Well done, doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
So, but when we go back to the codependence, because it's a slightly different, if you look at what causes codependence, if you have experienced physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, boom, both Thomas and Lucille. So I feel like Thomas and Lucille codependence, they both have it in different ways, though, in different forms. They're both dependent on each other. If you have a parent or caregiver that suffers from addiction or a mental disorder or a physical illness where the child becomes the parent.
Which we know they have.
We know that.
Yep. If you have a controlling or overprotective caregiver, that's
we may have gotten a little bit of that.
If you've been abandoned by one or both parents, which technically they were, I mean, they killed them, but then they didn't have them.
Yeah.
And if you have trauma or dysfunctional family dynamics.
Yeah, I'd say it was traumatic.
I'd say they check those boxes.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've kind of already talked about like the traits of having this codependent personality. So we don't need to get into those, but some treatment for it would be spending time alone. So not being the person that you are causing that dependence or that is depending on you, or that you're depending on, or just getting some distance from the person you're codependent on.
Yeah.
It's sad because his ghost is trapped with Lucille's ghost. So that's never going to happen for him.
They're there forever now.
That was going to be my next point. So the irony of this situation is that now they are forever trapped together, will have that cabin fever together, and will be codependently entwined.
Oh, their poor ghost selves.
Eternity. Yeah.
They're damned.
Yeah. So that's my psych.
Oh, love it.
Psych for Crimson Peak.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mean, I think that nails it. They were definitely a little more than codependent for sure.
I went a little definition heavy, but you get the idea.
Yes. Yeah. No, that was good. Okay, well, should we get into some fun facts? I think we've mentioned a few while we've talked, but we can go back through them. Okay, so the very kind of an opening scene where Edith sees the ghost of her mom after the funeral. This was inspired by Guillermo's mom, because on the day of her grandmother's funeral, she saw her ghost. And she told Guillermo about this. So that was the inspiration for that scene at the beginning.
I love that.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I mean, yeah.
I love that.
That's cool. I did look up because we learned that Sir Thomas Sharp is a baronet, and I'd never heard about that before.
Right.
I forgot.
I had no idea what that was. So I do think in the movie, they also give Lucille some sort of title, but I don't think that would actually apply. So I don't think she would actually have any title based on that. So a baronet is basically, it's below a baron, but above a knight. Not everywhere, but generally. And it is passed down from father to son.
Okay.
So they would pass it down. And essentially in 1611, James the First really needed money. And so he basically just came up with a new title.
Nice.
He was like, you get this title of baronet if you give us 1,000 euros, and which I'm sure would be significantly more, in today's dollars, because it was enough to pay for basically 30 soldiers, and they needed troops at the time. So he kind of just created this title because he needed some money.
Okay.
So that's where that came from.
See, now I was thinking it was something related to like the choir or band. So not a soprano, not an alto, but a baronet.
But a baronet
is what I was thinking it was.
Oh my gosh. Ching. All right, Dad.
Okay, that was bad.
That was bad.
All right, Dad.
Oh my God. But he would get the title of Sir. So Sir Thomas Sharp is accurate. Let's see. We kind of talked about how color was super important in this movie. So for the set in the US in Buffalo, they wanted to really focus on having green and teal and gold and warm, rich tones, just to give it like a really warm effect that could be contrasted in Allerdale Hall, which was a lot darker.
Which it totally,
colder.
even just the hue, like it was like a golden hue in Buffalo.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And yet that makes me wonder, have they ever been to Buffalo?
Buffalo in 1901 was a different place.
Yeah.
Because Buffalo is really gray.
It's
not in 1901.
In 1901, though, it was kind of, they wanted it to, it was like an innovative part of the world.
Right.
In 1901.
Okay.
No offense to the people of Buffalo.
Love you, Buffalo. I can say that because I'm from near there.
Yeah, you can say it. And you root for the Bills, so it's fine. We say it out of respect. Okay, for that candle dance that Thomas and Edith do.
Yes.
Originally, that scene was going to be everyone dancing, everyone at the party was dancing, and we kind of focus on Edith and Thomas. But they realized that would be really expensive because the extras would be, it counts as kind of like a special extra, because they're doing something. So you have to pay them a lot more money. So that scene would have cost, I think it was absurd. It was like $1 million. I forget. It was like 100,000, like $1 million. So Guillermo had to rethink that scene. And he had previously heard about this candle dance. It is a real thing. It's like
it is. I've heard of it before.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it, but I guess it's a real thing. So he had recently heard about that, and he liked that even more. So he decided to have them do this dance.
I love
instead, which honestly worked a lot better.
No, it worked really well.
Yeah, I think having the setup of, we have, Sir Thomas with us, and he's going to show us how to do the proper waltz. Like, I think that worked really well.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
So they did use a real candle. They did cheat a little bit because it's a 2-wick candle, which you can see when she blows it out at the end.
You can see.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
I didn't notice it the first time I watched it, but I noticed it this time. It has 2 wicks on it, which helps it not burn out as much.
I did not notice that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Let's keep going. So we talked about how ridiculous the set was, because Guillermo really likes to put the characters in the story to kind of help them not have to act basically as much, right? Like you're in the scene, so you don't have to think about all the little details. So the kitchen was essentially a fully functional kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
Like you could actually boil the water, and like it was fully functional. while they were recording, which is kind of insane that they went that far with the details.
That's a lot of work. Just make them act.
Right?
Just feel like just tell them to act.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, the hallway, which I think we only kind of talked about, but the very creepy hallway with kind of the pointy stuff on top.
Mhm.
It was kind of like made to measure for Edith's character. Like they really tried to make it basically just big enough for her to be in it. So it's definitely a lot smaller than a regular hallway.
Yeah.
And then the way that they designed it is I think they repeated a certain like pattern at the beginning to always make it seem like it's almost blurry. Like you can't focus on the hallway.
Oh.
Give it again, just to give it that uneasy feel while you're looking at it where something just seems off.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Let's see. The inspiration for the bathroom ghost, which is where we see the Sharp's mom, was actually something that Guillermo experienced while he was doing some scouting for the Hobbit trilogy. They stayed in a hotel and he asked them to just give him the most haunted room, which, you know, I guess makes sense. I don't know why I haven't been asking for this when I stay at hotels.
I did once. Oh, yes. At the Shining Hotel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We got the haunted room.
Okay. Yeah. So he asked him to give him the most haunted room, kind of not really thinking about it. I guess this is just a normal request he makes. But in the middle of the night, he heard all of these sounds and it sounded like a murder was being committed. He heard it happening. And so that was the inspiration for Edith hearing the murder happen before.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I love how he brings stuff from his own life. Like,
right?
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a life like that, then
Seriously. So
like,
we'll add that hotel to our Spooky Sips International tour to New Zealand.
Okay, we're going.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we can just go ahead and add that in there.
All right.
Okay. In the scene where Lucille gets really mad at Edith because they spent the night away, where she slams the pot on the table. Originally in the script, Lucille was going to slap Edith. But as Guillermo was thinking about it, he said, you know what? Like a strong American woman, she would absolutely slap her back.
Yeah.
Like that would absolutely be her reaction. And that's not where they were looking to take the scene. So that's why they changed it to her slamming the pot on the table.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I like
it
that.
had the same effect.
It did.
I think of her hitting her almost.
Yeah, it was still visceral.
Yeah, but it's not as confrontational as hitting her.
Because it's more about the need to show Lucille's rage.
Exactly.
And like inner turmoil at the fact that her brother slept with his wife.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
How dare he?
But it's not about the actual slap toward Edith. So I like it. I
think it worked even better. Okay. And then the scene where kind of near the end, after Edith stabs Lucille and then runs away and runs into Thomas, the scene was originally going to be way longer, where Thomas kind of gives a whole big speech about how he loves her and how things are going to change. But as they were recording it, both Guillermo and Tom, the actor, they decided that it was just way too wordy. And honestly, I think that makes a lot of sense to cut it, because even as it was, when he tells Edith to wait, it's like, I was like, no, it's taking way too long. Like, don't wait for him. So I think that was a good call.
Yeah, I wouldn't have bought it.
Right. To have like a whole extra declaration.
Like a monologue.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't have.
We knew what was happening. We didn't need anything on top.
Less is more in that moment.
One scene that was cut, and I don't really know why, and I'm curious like what you guys think about it, is there was going to be a scene where Thomas sees a ghost when he's in the house.
Oh,
I think I forget exactly how it went. They did film it, but they ended up cutting it, where I think he's walking out and the fire kind of lights up and he sees a ghost as he's exiting the house, because we really only see Edith seeing ghosts. We never see anyone else.
So my initial thought is the only reason to include that is to convey that Thomas believes Edith. But I think that's already conveyed.
Yeah.
Like, wait, I already got the feeling that Thomas believed everything Edith saw.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we needed to see him see a ghost.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know if it
Yeah,
was
and
needed. Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like for me, I initially was thinking like Edith has this special ability to see ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
So
And they're almost there to warn her.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
yeah.
why they wouldn't be warning Thomas?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it wouldn't
Yeah.
really make sense.
Yeah. So I think it makes
Yeah.
sense to cut it. But
Yeah.
oh, another scene that was deleted was at the beginning of the movie after the dinner where Thomas, kind of breaks Edith's heart. There was going to be a scene where her dad comes to kind of like console her, which I actually think that would have been worth
Oh,
it.
that would have been fine.
I actually think that maybe would have been worth the extra like minute or
Yeah.
so. I was kind of
feel like that would
expecting
have been
it.
believable.
Yeah. But I think
But it
just
almost
didn't.
makes it maybe more
Yeah.
heartbreaking that he didn't, because
Oh,
then he
true.
dies, and then
And she's just alone.
she's
in her
and then,
grief.
and then she
Yeah.
has to. Then she marries, Edward,
Right.
because she marries him because she's all alone, and that he's all that she has, and she doesn't even have the comfort of her father, like
Yeah.
going
Consoling her.
to console her that one last time. She's just,
Yeah.
it's just,
No, it's true.
Alone.
quick
Yeah.
and brutal.
Yeah.
Alone. Yeah.
Yes,
So
maybe
I kind of like it too.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so the final scene where they're, outside in all of the fog, that
Mhm.
was again filmed inside in a giant studio because, they wanted an absurd amount of fog, which
Right.
you can't contain
You have to
outside.
contain.
So they had a bunch of fake snow and fog, and the actor said it was really difficult to work in because it was as disorienting as it looks.
I
Mhm.
believe it.
Yeah, like just super foggy. You can't actually see what's in front of you.
Mhm.
So I think it was very difficult to work in.
Wild.
Even like
Um,
we've had a Halloween party where we had fog machines,
Mhm.
and it was like you couldn't
Disorienting.
breathe or walk around. Like it was
Yeah.
just in one little room.
No, yeah, like breathing was hard. And
Mhm.
like
Yep.
as they're filming, I saw some behind the scenes where the actress that plays Edith is wearing like a face mask as she's kind of running through the scene to prepare.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was uncomfortable for them
Yeah.
for sure. So when Guillermo was coming up with the story, he wanted it to fit with kind of, the gothic stories, but he didn't want the women to be weak. He knew from the very beginning, he wanted strong women. He wanted Lucille to be strong and Edith to be strong in different ways. And he knew that he wanted a guy to be the damsel in distress.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
because I was going to say Alan is totally the damsel.
Yes,
in
totally.
distress.
So he totally flipped it where it's like, we think Alan is going to go and save her, but really,
She saves him.
yeah, we get the scene of Edith being like, okay, just wait here and I'll be right back, to come get
And
you.
she even carries him out.
Yes, and she's carrying him on the way out. And so the actor, I think his name is Charlie, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Hunnam? Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
When he heard that he was going to be the damsel in distress, he was like, sold. Absolutely. I will play this
Done.
role.
I love that.
Because even Thomas is like the weaker person. Like, yeah, this
Yes.
is definitely like female empowerment.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Which,
I
yeah,
love that.
it's like, I know the story isn't super complex, when you really dive into it, but I do think he had an interesting take on it
His
in a lot of different
characters
parts.
were solid.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like
thought they
the
were great.
character development of who each character was individually and as part of the system
Mhm.
Yeah.
was really developed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved the male damsel in
Oh,
distress.
that's amazing.
Okay, so when they were first making it, Guillermo did not really see this as a horror film. He saw it as, kind of a gothic horror, but not really a horror movie. So the movie was done, ready to go, December 2014, January 2015. It was ready to go. But the studio advertised it as a horror and wanted to release it in October. So they
Mm.
waited like 9-10 months to
Wow.
release it.
Okay. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, because of that, it didn't actually do great when it was released. Part of it was that it wasn't actually a horror when you really look at it. And also it was up against some like stiff competition. Like I think
Mhm.
The Martian with Matt Damon.
Oh.
I don't know. I think that was
that
I
was a
think
good
that's when that
movie.
was released. Like
Mhm.
it had a lot of competition in the box office. So that's why it ended up doing, it did fine. They grossed more than their budget. So, you know, they made money at the end of the day. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's like, I don't really see a reason to wait for October. I actually think it would be better to release it in like December, January when it's snowy outside. And
agreed.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Okay, let's see. Mention that. Okay, I mean, one of the things that we saw a lot, but I don't know if we've talked about it yet, was that Edith was supposed to be a butterfly and Lucille was supposed to be a moth.
Oh, I get that.
They really tried to push that. So that. I mean, they had the literal scene with the butterflies, you know, and then talking about the moths.
And even the way they were dressed in that scene and the way they're dressed throughout, like
yes. So for Edith's
and their hair.
Edith's wardrobe, that's why they had the huge sleeves. It's because when they were making it, they wanted to make her look like a butterfly. And then in even the final scene where they're battling it out, you know, they both have these kind of like big sleeve things, but Lucille's is a lot darker. So it's this butterfly versus moth. Again, both strong, but different.
I can totally see that.
Now that you say it, I see it and it makes sense, but I did not.
It's not like I thought of it.
No, I didn't quite.
Yeah. It makes perfect. And then knowing that when you watch it, there's so much in there that they try to make it look like a butterfly, like the chair and all these other little details.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
And then another thing with Lucille is that they wanted Lucille to also be part of the house. Like the house is Lucille, Lucille is the house.
I got that.
When they were making her wardrobe, they actually included items that were in the house. So they took sections of things that were in the house and put it in her dresses.
Cool.
So it was very much so like she is very much the house. The color, like she is becoming the house.
That part I did get.
Yeah. And then they mention like Edith's character points out that Thomas's wardrobe is like 10 plus years old. So they did actually use kind of 10 years too old clothes for them.
Nice.
And for American characters, they used a machine to sew their wardrobe. But for the Sharps, all of their stuff was hand sewn.
Oh my gosh.
To again, just add to which like, it's like, and I'm sure like 1% of people noticed this, but it's so cool that they went.
That is cool that they gave that attention to detail.
Yeah. And honestly, when you rewatch, because I kind of just rewatched a couple scenes before we recorded, you can see it. Like you can see it in Lucille's dresses, the lace, like you can tell like the lace isn't perfectly done like a machine would have done it. Like everything is just hand sewn to them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Oh, like now I want to watch it again.
Right?
Like,
right?
Now knowing all of this, I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
One of our favorite things I feel like we all like to know is who was first up to play these roles.
Oh, yes.
So, Brianna, you mentioned that Jessica Chastain was maybe going to be Edith before she chose Lucille. But then for the role of Thomas, Benedict Cumberbatch was originally cast for that role.
Okay.
And Emma Stone was cast as Edith.
Ooh, I couldn't see that.
She's too well known, I think.
I can see it either. I know. I was thinking, and I love her. I love so many of her movies. I could not see.
I can't see her playing this.
I can see Benjamin Cumberbatch because that's what I like to call him. I can see him playing Thomas.
Right. I could see that, but I cannot see Emma Stone.
Yeah. No, I don't think it would have worked as well. So I think there's some tea on why Benedict Cumberbatch decided not to do the role. He was like, he didn't really give a reason. When he was asked in an interview, he was like, Guillermo knows. And then in an interview, like Guillermo del Toro was like, yeah, I think it was something about like Jessica Chastain playing his sister instead of his wife. Like there were creative differences in the movie. Ooh. So there's some tea there that I can't find online.
Okay, so Benedict, if you're listening,
tell us what happened.
Would like to come on our podcast and tell us what happened.
We love you, Benjamin Cumberbatch.
You just come on here anytime you want and you can tell us all the tea.
Yeah.
We won't poison it.
72 hours after he fell out, they gave the role to what's
Nice.
Tom how do you pronounce it? Hiddleston?
Yeah, Tom
Hiddleston. Which
He did a great job.
Oh yeah. And they're actually really close friends, like him. So he called Benedict Cumberbatch before accepting the role to kind of just say, like,
and
hey,
was like, man, is this cool? Like,
yeah.
we good?
And he was like, yes, all for it. You're gonna be great.
Nice.
And so after they had their new casting, they did have to do some rewrites, which I actually think it's a better movie because of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think they were able to change the character. I think originally the role of Edith was going to be a different type of kind of, you know, modern American woman of the 1901. And then Thomas wasn't going to have as much of a soft side as he ended up having. So I actually think it benefited.
I think it worked out.
Yeah. And I think they both did such a good job.
No, it was, and their chemistry was amazing.
It was.
I think.
Yeah.
I think it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was great.
No, I think it was really good. Okay, another one is, so the script was actually originally written in 2006.
Oh, wow.
So right after he did Pan's Labyrinth, he started working on this.
Holy cow.
Okay. But it kept getting delayed because Guillermo had to work on Hellboy and then had to work on the Hobbit trilogy, which took years, to the point where I think people were like, why don't you just let someone else direct it and you can produce? But he wanted to do it.
Okay.
And so it just kept getting delayed.
I'm glad he did, because
ultimately released in 20.
No, I mean, it's like his movie.
His movies have such a vibe, and
they do. Yeah. And I could see wanting to just like be fully, it really does seem like he was involved in every decision.
Wow.
So I could see wanting it to be yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so I have a fun observation to go along with your fun facts that I just thought of. Speaking of his, you know, style for shooting things, did either of you feel like, especially early on in the movie, there was all these like pans of it like getting dark and then like opening up like the what would you call it? Like fade ins and fade outs and stuff.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Did it not remind you of Dr. Caligari?
Yes, totally.
Yes. Oh my God. It's like you read my next thing.
I thought,
did I really? Okay.
No. So he used old film styles because he wanted, this movie is not only set in 1901, it's supposed to be a film that's before its time. Like this which honestly, I think this movie could have been released any time. And I think that's why it holds up.
Yes, I agree.
It's meant to look old.
Because it does.
Oh my gosh, he did such a great job of it. I totally agree.
No,
that's amazing.
That's amazing.
Okay, so the movie originally received a rating of PG-13, but it ultimately went to rated R because of some frightening scenes and violence.
Oh my gosh, get over it.
I mean, the bashing the head on the scene.
Some
sexual
content.
And maybe that,
Oh yeah, I forgot about the hand job.
Honestly, I think the R rating was fine. You know,
quite a passionate moment.
I actually think I'll talk only about the gory moments, but I feel like that was actually worth the R rating.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It stood out. You know, I don't think it would have been worth taming it to get a PG-13 rating.
No, absolutely not.
You know?
Nope.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I mentioned that it did gross. So the budget was $55 million for the movie, and they ended up grossing just under $75 million.
Nice.
So it did okay. It didn't do great when it came out, but it did okay.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so for this time in history, I thought instead of doing 2015, why not do 1901?
Oh,
where this movie
it.
is set.
Cool.
Yes,
totally.
So I decided to go with 1901 for this time in history.
Yep.
Okay.
I love that.
Okay, so I have some fun facts for you guys. One thing that I was so shocked about was that and it's not specific to 1901, but like kind of like plus or minus a few years, 25% of cars on the road were electric.
What?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So they had made electric cars, and okay, it's 1901. So this was like pre-Model T, like Ford Model T. This was, cars didn't go very fast. So electric cars only went like 15 miles an hour. You know, it was kind of a not super innovative, but they were 3 times the price of a normal car. So it was basically only like upper society people who didn't like, the smell of gasoline and were willing to pay the premium for an electric car.
Wow.
This is
Who ended up
shocking
getting
to
it.
me.
Right. But they basically just were not able to keep up with gas cars.
Yeah.
Gas cars, they got so much better.
Right.
Just wasn't even comparable. But I thought that was so shocking. 25%. Like, I don't know.
That's very shocking.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever get back to that.
No.
Oh, we will. We will.
We will,
gas
but
is
like,
gonna run out, so
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
The first wireless transmission happened, transmitted over 2,000 miles across the Atlantic from England to Canada.
Wow.
The transmission consisted of the Morse code signal for the letter S, which is 3 dots.
Okay.
There you go.
A lot of car stuff. I don't know why so much car stuff appeared.
Yeah.
In New York State, it became the first place to require license plates. Oh, yeah. They decided maybe they should have that to identify cars.
Nice.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah. And then in Connecticut, they passed a law having speed limits.
Oh,
Cars were limited to 10 miles an hour in cities,
Okay.
15 miles an hour in villages, and 20 miles an hour in rural areas.
oh my
All
gosh.
right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is crazy, right? The US stock market crashed for the first time.
Nice.
Oh,
Yay.
Won't be the last.
Yay.
Won't be the last.
And not the last. Let's see. In the US, William McKinley was the 25th president of the US, and he was assassinated. So Vice President Theodore Roosevelt became the 26th president of the United
Do
States.
you feel like some of these names, like obviously I know Theodore Roosevelt, but
Yeah.
McKinley, if someone paid me $1,000 before this exact conversation and said,
I
hey,
couldn't have told you.
I'll give this to you if you can tell me if McKinley was a president or not, I would
No.
not be able to tell
No,
you.
absolutely.
I'd say no. There's never been a McKinley.
Yeah,
as a
we're like, no,
president.
that
What are you
doesn't
talking
sound
about?
familiar at all.
No,
Make up words.
absolutely. That's not even a last name.
Right?
Get
So it
outta
was like
here.
for $1,000, name the 25th president of the United States. McKinley would not be at the top of that list.
No, it's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like
Again, we are not historians.
No.
we are not
no.
historians.
Abroad, Queen Victoria died at the age of 81
Oh.
and left Edward VII as her heir, getting us into
Oh.
the Edwardian era.
Edwardian.
Edwardian era.
Oh, Edward, your Thomasonian area.
Yes.
Area. I meant era.
Areola.
We're really getting to the end here.
Oh no.
Oh, gosh.
I'm really just tired. I'm not drunk
Yeah.
this time.
Falling
Um,
apart.
The first Nobel Prizes were awarded in Sweden in the fields of physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace.
Interesting.
Yeah. I just realized this guy's first name is King. Who names what? Okay. King C. Gillette and William Emerson Nickerson founded the American Safety Razor Company and began mass producing safety razors.
Ah,
1901.
What is a safety razor?
It's the razor.
like not a sharp blade.
yeah,
like not a
the
straight
one with,
razor.
like, the safety
Oh.
stuff on it.
Just wouldn't have called it a safety razor.
Yeah, like there's straight razor,
Yeah.
like a straight blade, and then a safety razor.
like with the aloe strips.
Yeah, that's a safety
yeah,
razor.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. Hubert Cecil Booth made the first vacuum cleaner,
Oh,
but it was way too large to fit a normal house. So it was like an industrial thing. And then later they figured out how to make it
Nice.
like a household vacuum
So
cleaner.
122 years ago, there was no vacuum cleaners,
No.
is what that
No.
means.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I wanted to end with a movie fact. The world's first film production studio, which was opened by Thomas Edison, you may have heard of him. It was called the Black Maria, was closed.
oh,
So in 1901, they were focused on making film strips for kinetoscopes, which I looked them up. We'll have to post a picture. They're basically these giant boxes. Like imagine like I'm trying to think of like, I don't know. It's a big box, kind of like a human-sized box, where the film would kind of zigzag in through the box, and then it had a viewing opening at the top, so one person could go and look into it and watch a short film.
Oh,
It
interesting.
makes me think of like those viewfinders that we had as
Yes.
kids. Like,
Yes.
Imagine like 100 times bigger than that. So it was
Yeah.
like a one person can use to make it.
okay.
But in 1901, they were kind of moving away from using those to
Yeah.
using screens.
Cool.
Well,
Makes
So
sense.
he decided to close that production company.
Wow.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Oh, I love
So,
that.
yeah. Those are my for 1901.
Mhm,
Oh my
mhm.
gosh, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, so we should get into our rating
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
because what a phenomenal movie. So here on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars, we give sips. So ladies, out of 5 sips, how many do you give this movie?
Okay. So I really liked this movie, and I've seen this movie before, and I thought it was beautiful and well done. And as I've said 10 times tonight, I love Guillermo del Toro. I think something about this movie, I love it, but I kind of end up forgetting about it.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, I'm just knocking it down a couple of pegs because it doesn't like stick out in my memory. But I'm going to give it a 3.15.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm going to, because it's great. It's great. It's
Mhm.
beautiful. It like takes you to a time. Love the ghosts. Love the whole storybook feel of it. I'm going to give it a 3.15.
Yeah. I think I was thinking kind of similar. I was thinking a 3.5.
Okay.
Kind of along the same lines. Like I had watched it once before and somehow I'd forgotten pretty much most of it. But after I watched it again, I was like, I absolutely love this movie. How did I forget about it? So it has a lot of really awesome parts of it. It is just so beautifully done. You could watch it on mute and
Mhm.
it would just, you could still get the story. But we are a spooky podcast and it was only a little spooky. So I think it's a 3.5, but a
That's
must
fair.
watch. Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 3.75 because I've seen it so many times and can watch it again and again. Because to me, it's not spooky, but it's haunting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me,
Mhm.
I'm going to go with a 3.75.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it is one of those where you can watch it multiple times. And because of how much attention to detail they had, you could probably catch something new every time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I love. And that has to be a well done movie to be able to do that.
For
Yes.
sure. Yes, definitely.
Yes. Ah, solid. Okay.
What a good pick. Yeah.
What a good pick.
Great
Yes.
pick. Thank
Mhm.
you,
I
Brianna.
loved this.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm
You
glad
picked it,
that
right,
you two
Brianna?
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I chose
Okay.
it. But
Mhm.
it's always like when you're the chooser, there's some like
Oh my gosh. I
nerves
know.
with that.
Yeah.
Because you
No.
want to make sure the people that watch it enjoy it too.
That's how I felt about Candyman.
Right?
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of which, next time on Spooky Tips, we will be watching The Blair Witch Project.
Yes.
Which I just have to say, I am excited because I was not allowed to watch this movie as
Oh,
a child
oh.
and went over to a friend's house to watch it. We did.
You watched it with me.
No, not the first time.
Oh, snap.
You.
Oh,
Yeah.
snap.
So I went over to a friend's house to watch it and I did. And that is the last time I think I've seen it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
watched it with someone else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have not seen this movie since I was a
this will be-
child.
okay.
So
Yeah. I
I
have
am
thoughts
very
on the Blair
excited.
Witch, so I'm excited.
Mhm.
I'm
I
excited
think
to
this is
talk
going to
about
be a
it.
good deep dive.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it yet, get watching and get sipping, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Cute.
Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.